Welcome back to Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg, your host, broadcasting live from Roseville, Minnesota, in the belly of the beast, the liberal zombie apocalypse of Minneapolis and St. Paul. That's been my tagline at the beginning of this show forever, and it just seems more and more real as you watch Minneapolis being more Minneapolis. You know what I mean by that? Like, it's just, well, I know a lot of my audience is coming from greater Minnesota, and you have this connotation of what Minneapolis is all about, and that's exactly what it is. And if you're from outside the state, other than like San Francisco and Portland and LA and Chicago, you probably have that connotation. And it is exactly what it is. It's a craziness that's just like, other than Portland and Seattle, maybe not seen anywhere else. San Francisco, there's something about that Pacific Northwest. And we're going to get into that in this show. Not just Minneapolis politicians, but like Minnesota politicians on the far left, the craziness that they just protrude anytime they like get on camera or do anything. It's just, I just got to be honest with you, like it's like the crazies are running the asylum here, you know? And I know I'm preaching to the choir a little bit with some of the people that watch this, but I'm hoping there's we know that there's new people coming to the show all the time, every episode. And maybe, just maybe, I show you something you weren't aware of. And it equips you to do something about it, right? Because, like, quite frankly, what's the point in doing media unless it initiates some kind of action to change the system, change the things around you? Okay? It's kind of one of the reasons I've given up on federal politics, right? Like, I don't know if you and I are really going to change Washington, D.C., but I know what we can change. I know we could change the state of Minnesota. I know the work that we did during COVID forced Governor Walz to sign the end of his own emergency powers, something he didn't want to have to do. Why would he have to, listen to the peasants? So that's the way I look at politics, is you want to initiate some kind of action in the end. I got to make sure I share this on Facebook. We're coming live on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube. Excuse me. What else do we have on here? Bunch of different things. We got X, I guess. We're on X. Oh, there it is. I was going to say, where is it? Why is it not pulling up here? So I'm going to share my Facebook here. I know a lot of you guys don't watch this live. So if you are joining us live, we will be reading the comments on Rumble. Oh, Bad at Harry, right off the bat, joining us live. That always makes my day when Bad at Harry is joining us live. I'll be reading Rumble comments, comments on locals and YouTube. The Facebook and the X comments don't come to me. If you can even comment on X, I don't know. I should know that kind of stuff. All right, sorry. Before I get into the topic today, and I think you guys are going to be very interested in this topic, we're brought to you by Alpine Chemistry in the great city of St. Cloud, Minnesota. We're also brought to you by EliteGuardianMN.com. If you want to stop a bad guy with a gun, you need to have good guys with guns. We do our firearms training. It also qualifies for your Minnesota permit to carry requirements. Go to EliteGuardianMN.com. We got a course on February 9th. And February 16th. It's EliteGuardianMN.com. Okay. T-Wall for Life is in the comments. Oh, good to see T-Wall for Life. K-Wall for Life's better half. Just hanging out with both of them last week here at Liberty headquarters. All right. So if you guys remember, Trump took office and he signed a ton of executive orders. Some of them were really good. Some of them were like, some of them are like just, I don't know, nothing burgers. But he sent some good ones. One of them I thought was this, I mean, it sounds so crazy to say this, but executive order saying we recognize two genders, male and female. I mean, I just think you just go back to like JFK's time, right? Probably don't even need to go that far back, but you're like, are you serious? This is the debate? This is what they're talking about these days? Male and female? Got Supreme Court justices that don't know the difference, right? What is a female? And you guys know the cultural game that's being played. It's sad, but Trump did a very common sense thing, and of course he got flack for it by the mainstream media and by the left because it's what you feel. It's not about what you were assigned at birth; it's what you feel. So, by the way, that's not vodka; it's just water and a little Sprite there. So, with the dry air, I get just like what do you call it? Frog in the throat all the time. So sorry. And after last show, if you guys watched last show, I rambled on and on for a long time, and it's probably going to happen again today. So just a warning, lots going to come at you here. So we're going to start here with a story in Minnesota, and I might talk about caucus night too. I think I can get to that subject too. I'm going to try to keep it within an hour, and then we'll do some stuff for the post show. If you want to interrupt me anytime, just hit that Rumble Rant button, and we will go live to your. I'll read your comment live on air. And if you're after the fact, consider joining us live Tuesdays and Thursdays here at 1 o'clock. This is NPR News. Children's Minnesota paused some pediatric gender health services. Don't you love how they say that? Pediatric gender health services, not like child genital mutilation, and child puberty blockers, child trans health services. Pediatric gender health services. Sounds so nice. Children of Minnesota announced Tuesday that it will temporarily pause prescribing puberty-suppressing medications and puberty hormones to patients under the age of 18 in gender health program. This decision will take effect on February 27th if federal actions targeting pediatric health systems that provide this type of care remain unchanged. Gender-affirming care for transgender youth remains legal in Minnesota, and the program at Children's Minnesota is still operational, according to the hospital statement. However, the Trump administration continues to use various methods to restrict access to care. We can go to the actual Children's Minnesota page. A message to our community. That's how they talk in Minnesota. Hey, fellow comrades. As one of the leading pediatric providers of gender-affirming care in the region, we have recently experienced an increase in federal actions directed at the health systems like ours that provide this care. These actions jeopardize the stability of Minnesota's only comprehensive pediatric health care system, and they threaten our clinicians' ability to practice medicine now and in the future. If conditions remain the same, we plan to temporarily pause prescribing puberty-suppressing medications. God, I mean, they really figure out their messaging. Puberty-suppressing medication sounds so nice, right? Sounds horrible. I mean, we just call them puberty blockers. And puberty hormones, estrogen and testosterone. Of course, they're talking about more estrogen for boys and more testosterone for girls. You're going to actually see a case live when I show you the press conference. And this is for patients under the age 18 in our gender health programs effective Friday, February 27, 2026. Our gender health program is not closed. We continue to provide supportive care, mental health services, and guidance regarding medical and non-medical treatment options. If you have an appointment with us, it is not canceled. Please keep your appointment to discuss any needed adjustments to your care plan. We understand this change will have a significant impact on the patient and families. If you have questions about your child's care, need more information, or require additional resources, please contact us. Despite this difficult decision, Children's Minnesota remains committed to advocating for the patients and families and stand firmly behind the fact that gender-affirming care is evidence-based and life-saving for transgender and gender-diverse youth. Going back to the NPR one, says about a year ago, President Donald Trump signed an executive order his first day in office declaring that the U.S. government would recognize only two sexes, female and male. 1 week into his presidency, Trump signed another executive order aimed at restricting access to gender-affirming health care for transgender people under the age of 19. A federal judge granted a temporary restraining order against the presidential order. Earlier this year, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services proposed rules to prohibit hospitals from providing puberty blockers, hormone treatments, or surgeries to transgender youth if such services are covered by Medicare and Medicaid. The administration has threatened to withdraw federal funding from any hospital that offers these treatments, even in the states where they are legal. There you go. That's how this all started. And then, of course, members of the Minnesota Queer Legislators Caucus, that is the actual term. When I was growing up, queer meant something different, was not really what they would call themselves, but they issued a statement following Children's Minnesota's announcement. What kind of voice should I do this in? I don't know. All right, we'll just read it normally. We are deeply saddened and upset that this moment has come. Any loss of access to health care in Minnesota, even temporarily, is unacceptable, they wrote. As a trans refuge state, we refuse to let political bullying put our children at risk. Okay, that was a mouthful. Give me 1 second. KWall for Life says, good God, it's like saying a punch to the face is facial reconstruction care. Look, great point. Hate Minnesota says the medical professionals doing this are mentally ill. And Razzle says, I'm here. You can start now, Jake. Oh, wait, you jumped right in. I see Tucker's in the comment section. Cindy Lou, good to see you, incognito. By the way, Truth Hurts has the best fan base ever. I appreciate everything you guys do. Keeping it real. I'm going to try to read your comments, but once again, if you want to interrupt me, just hit the Rumble rant or Super Chats button. Okay, let's get to the press conference. So we've covered this on the show many times, especially when we used to have William on the show. We did a lot of coverage on the queer caucus, as they call themselves, the queer caucus up at the Capitol, which seems to be growing, and they seem to be identifying in many different ways. Quite frankly, I think they got a bingo card. I'm swear to God, the Democrats have a bingo card, and they go, okay, do we have male to female? Yep. Lee Finke. Do we have female to male? Is that Breon Curran? Yes, check. Do we have bisexual? Zach Stevenson. Let's make him the new majority leader or minority leader. Do we have two spirits? Yep, Alicia Kozlowski. Do we have gay? Yep, Tim Walz. Who else? No, I'm just kidding. Or am I kidding? I don't know. So they do. I do think they have a bingo card. They have a two-spirited. They have non-binary. I think that's maybe Brian Brian Curran. They got the whole gamut. The bisexuals. They got the LGBT, right? So that's what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to just fill those identity politics bingo cards. And they did a press conference here, and this is a banger, folks. Get ready for this. First of all, let's go to Gunnar Ballstad, great friend of the show. Timing, $5 Rumble rent. Timing coincides with huge lawsuit win for detransitioner Fox Varian. Many more to come. And I appreciate you putting that here because it's so important for us to understand that this exists. We've invited Lee Finke on the show multiple times. We'll invite any of these people. They'll never come, but we would invite them. I want to sit down and talk to them and go, let's have a conversation about the detransitioners, because that's really the problem here, right? I think of this as such a heinous act. To take a youth, and I'm guessing these surgical procedures are very rare, but the puberty blockers seem like they're handing those out like Skittles, right? To stunt the natural biological growth of an individual because they believe they're transgender. What does a kid know, right? I mean, really, it's like probably suggestive because of the parents. But to stunt that growth, that natural sexual development, I just want to sit down with these leftists and go, how do you respond to the fact that there are detransitioners? And what you're doing, in some cases, is not reversible. And in the cases that it is reversible or kind of reversible, you've done so much damage, right? You're playing with fire. I would love to sit down and get that conversation out. It's probably never going to happen because you got to remember that side doesn't want to have conversations. We have conversations all the time. I'll have anyone on this show, right? Like literally, I'm not afraid to talk to anyone because I'm always pursuing the truth, and if I get something wrong, oh, right. What's a big problem here? I got something wrong and I learned something, right? I'm probably not going to learn something on this topic, but go ahead. Maybe you can convince me, right? And if you're an adult, go do whatever stupid thing you want to do, okay? It's up to you. But kids, we got to protect kids. Can we just at least admit we got to protect kids? Like an adults can smoke and drink, but kids shouldn't be able to do that. They shouldn't have access to all that stuff. Like we have to protect children. What kind of society do you have if you don't have a certain kind of protection for children? That's why like child sexual predators are the worst, right? That's why you got to lock them up or keep them part of a political undercover ring. One of the two. Either lock them up or keep them part of like the power ring out in Washington, D.C. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot writes, surgery and puberty blockers needs equal child abuse and felony prison time. Should be. Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's get to this press conference. This is the Queer Caucus and Keith Ellison. He's joining. All right, let's go into it.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Rep. Leash Kozlowski Ozawa Anaquad. Yellow Cloud is my Ojibwe name. I use they, them pronouns. I'm really proud to represent Duluth and also a proud two-spirit person. And
okay. It's actually a little tragic. I'm going to show you an old video of Alicia Leash as she goes she goes as. I'm almost getting this one wrong already. I'm going to just let's do a count here of all the identifying factors because this is what matters to these, LGBT bingo card people is all the identifying factors, right? So here we go.
My name is Rep Leash Kozlowski Ozawa Anaquad. Yellow Cloud is my Ojibwe name. I use they, them pronouns. I'm really proud to represent Duluth and also a proud two-spirit person and the trans non-binary person, member of our caucus here.
Okay, trans non-binary. And so what is Lish trying to say that God, it's so hard. It's sad because it was a woman, right? And you could hear the voice. This is Alicia Kozlowski right when she got elected, and that was 3 years ago. Okay, here's Alicia.
I really believe that there's so much happening and so much on the horizon right now. We've got it's a great place to be, live, work, and play.
And when you talk to people on the campaign trail, what were some of the issues they'd like to see addressed in 2023?
Yeah, as much as it's the center of all good things and a credible place, we also know that there are lots of challenges as well and opportunities in the horizon. And some of the big things that we know, so many issues, and that they're personal to people. They're deeply personal to me, but housing.
Okay, I'm just going to say this right now. I mean, she seems actually kind of happy here, right? When you look at this press conference, these people do not look happy. I mean, at all, right? But quite a bit of change in a matter of 3 years. I mean, not good change from most of our perspective. It was a woman, right? It is still a woman, but and will later admit taking like hormone treatment, testosterone, has grown facial hair, voice is obviously dropping, and the haircut is something that you can obviously do anyone. You don't have to do anything for that other than tell your barber something different.
We're here because, as you know, children's
That is the same person, by the way, just so you know. That is the same person.
Minnesota is one of a handful of pediatric hospitals across the country facing relentless federal intimidation, including threats of investigation, revoked funding, and even potential civil or criminal penalties. Their decision that was announced yesterday to pause certain gender-affirming care services is a direct result of these escalating federal campaign.
Let me pause real quick. Ben asked a great question. I can't even remember how this goes. He says, how, or she, I don't know, O'Bannon, could be a she. How can you be non-binary and two-spirit? That's a good question because non-binary, you're not identifying as either one, but two-spirit, you're identifying as both. Isn't that it? Yeah, that's actually a really valid question. God, see, I am so bad at the LGBTQIA bingo. Let's continue on.
Tax to punish hospitals for doing exactly what every hospital should be doing, and that is providing evidence-based, life-saving care to patients and families. We're gathered here as lawmakers, as community leaders, and most importantly, families and children who are deeply disappointed and gutted by this decision nonetheless, and it has sent shockwaves across our state and across the country. And I just want to say, to every single trans, non-binary, two-spirit youth out there, you have every right to feel sad, to feel heartbroken, and to feel pissed off.
That's right.
You are loved and lovable, and you deserve the care just as any other kid in this state and this country deserves.
Hey, I gotta just say something real quick. That statement I actually agree with, right? You are loved, and the love that we need to show for these kids is not like, I mean, I'm still wondering if it's the kids that initiate this. I think it's the adults, but to empathize with the kids and be a mentor and all that stuff. It's not to start prescribing hormone treatments. That's what we need to do with the youth is to love them, right? And foster a good environment for them. And this is what I really have a problem with. I didn't, a couple of years ago, I was all like economics, budgets and stuff like that, foreign policy. I didn't want to get into the social issues. This one really got me into social issues because, well, first of all, I'm a youth coach. So I deal with kids all the time. And of course, I got 3 little kids. And it just is like, to me, this one is so sinister. Like, when you really think of the left, and I'll get to a bill that passed, and some of you guys that watched the show for a while know about this, but there's just like evil. It's just protruding from the left. It's just so obvious. Like, my issue with the Republicans on the right are the con artists, the people that like pretend like they're on your side, the ones that lie. Oh, we really believe in limited government. We believe in less wars. We believe in balanced budgets, and they do the exact opposite. I don't like the liars on that side. But then you go over to the left, and it's like, whoa, what are you guys doing? You guys are like, you guys are literally crazy. You bring these drag queens to story time with little children and have these like grown men dressed up as women like doing sexual moves in front of kids. That's like insane how bad that is. And in this case, even worse, like you're doing puberty blockers to kids, confusing them. And once again, how do you answer to the detransitioners? Like, how do you answer that question? There are detransitioners. Do you not just don't believe that's not? You believe that's not true? You think that's fake news? It's fake news. There's no such thing as transitioning. It's obviously not. It's true. Let's continue on.
Children's has been a beacon of hope and joy, providing compassionate, evidence-based care to youth and families, rooted in body autonomy, care, compassion, and belonging. And I will say that as representing Greater Minnesota and families who have come seeking refuge across the country, this will have an outsized impact. Even a so-called temporary pause causes massive disruptions for care, breaks trust between patients and providers and the families, and it really causes our families to have to scramble for alternatives and overall drives them further away from healthcare where we already face massive discrimination. This is
Okay, I'm going to stop real quick here because someone in our fan base, LK to Live, who's big fan of the show, says, we went through this in my home. We were told love, I assume love on them. I assume that's what you're saying. Do not argue with them and never affirm. The doctor said if we did that, our child would grow out of it. In under a year, she did. Affirming the illness is not compassionate. Oh my God. I mean, like, and thank God you did that, right? And that's true. That's 100% true. That is the way to approach this. It's just so common sense, and yet this like mind virus, this leftist woke mind virus plagues people. It's like a badge of honor, isn't it? Like, I'm gonna murder this one. I think this is not gonna come as a surprise. I'm not into like celebrities out in Hollywood. I know the Grammys occurred. I think it was a joke. I want to say this was Angelina Jolie, and she also has like 2 trans kids. Like the odds of that are like impossible. It's obviously suggestive, right? I could be wrong in them being Angelina Jolie, but it's something like that. All right, let's continue. Oh, K-Wall makes a great point. Where was this talk when schools were paused during COVID? You gotta save grandma, right?
Profoundly heavy and dangerous moment that we're gathered here as our community continues to face aggressive efforts to be erased. This is nothing more than that coordinated federal attack, and representatives and others will talk more about that, but this is really political theater. It's the same political theater against our kids and our families as this government is caging and detaining our children here in Minnesota and kids of color and immigrant children. Gender affirming care is a wide umbrella from social support to self-expression. In some cases, there's puberty delaying medication that allows kids to just breathe and hit the pause button that they need to make the best decisions for themselves, to feel home in their body. This is life-affirming and life-saving care. And as someone who uses gender-affirming care in both the Twin Ports to here in the Twin Cities, I know the extreme joy and relief at taking those steps and actually being able to receive the care that you need to feel home in yourself. That first affirming haircut to having your pronouns and name affirmed, to that first dose of HRT and being able
There you go,
to feel
HRT.
like my body is my own. That is what our children are experiencing and waiting in anticipation. And
Oh my
unfortunately,
God.
that is what this administration and what politicians out there are trying to rip them away from. I also want to acknowledge the stress that families are enduring of having to go to.
What is it with these people? Like, obviously, it's a gal because you can keep hearing the inflection on the voice. I'm asking questions. Actually, I'm not asking questions. I'm making a statement, but it sounds like I'm asking a question. You guys notice that? It's so weird. The next speaker's gonna sound just like that. So weird.
multiple clinics.
I mean, is there someone that votes conservatively that talks that way? I don't think so. It's just so weird.
Having to go to multiple pharmacies, to blood draws,
Also,
and
pharmacies.
all of that gets in the way. I'll say shame on this administration for wagering the lives of our nation's youth for political gain. When children tell us who they are, we should listen. We should love up on them.
Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. Once again, I agree with love up on them, but when their kids tell us who they are, we should listen to them. My kid, God, what was it yesterday? I got a 5-year-old at home. I mean, thought he was a tiger. You know, like, what are you talking about? O'Bannon says Charlize Theron. Yes, I knew I was going to get it wrong. It just shows. See, my conservative card is very well established here. The fact that I didn't know which celebrity it was. And quite frankly, would we have been surprised if it was Angelina Jolie? But yes, I do remember it was Charlize Theron, who seems to really be fitting into that role she played in Arrested Development. You guys get that one? All right. So that was a really interesting statement. I'm going to rewind this real quick. Leish Kozlowski says, listen to this.
We should listen. We should love up on for political gain. When children tell us who they are, we should listen. We should.
Okay. And this is, by the way, a person that probably clearly doesn't have children, right? This is something I've heard before. Once I heard Lish say that, I recalled this press conference by Walz. This is when he signed an executive order on the making Minnesota trans refuge state. Let's watch this here real quick.
Tell us who they are.
Oops.
When our children tell us who they are, it is our job as grown-ups to listen and to believe them.
By the way, see who's right behind Peggy Flanagan? It's the non-binary Two Spirits list. And it's we broke down this press conference and what happened. I mean, Liz has just had the weirdest stare right forward. This is the whole queer caucus, Tim Walz, who's probably in it. And then what was so sick about this was parents that were also participating with their children who are trans, as Peggy Flanagan, who's going to be the next senator from Minnesota, because, you know, why not send our clowns to Washington, D.C.? You know, I was saying this to someone the other day. Like, this is why I don't really care about the U.S. Senate race, is because, quite frankly, Washington, D.C. is a circus, and if it's a circus, send your clowns. Look, she's got a shirt, and this is, from what I understand, never been explained. She's wearing a shirt that says protect trans kids, and it's got a bayonet on it. Like, that's not been explained ever. What does that even mean? Good applause line for that.
That's what it means to be a good parent. And when we talk about Minnesota being the best place in the country to raise a family, the best place.
And of course, you know, if you remember this, Lee, as Jesse calls it, Chris Finke, also spoke at this. This is a Fox 9. I don't know why the heck this is not playing. And then eventually, Governor Walz signs the executive order with what they're considering trans kids right by him, right? Because if they say they are something, we need to listen. You can't see this kid here, but, and you know, it's so sad to see these kids as political props, but another kid here. And I think it was this guy right here, was talking about a 6-year-old. So they were in this press conference signing this order and already referencing 6-year-olds. Now, you out there like me, who are parents and have young children, when you hear 6 years old, you're just like, what are you? You guys are lunatics. And of course they're lunatics. Let's continue on. I mean, they show us right in their press conference.
Love up on them and support them. The other message that we want to send today, in addition to a call to action, is that gender affirming care remains legal, best practice, and evidence-based. Our laws are strong, our values are clear, and our commitment is unshakable. We will fight to the bitter end to protect our trans youth. I've been reflecting a lot as a Mexican and Ojibwe person in this time.
Mexican too.
We've been raising the alarms that attacks on us are attacks that are going to land on your doorstep next, and they are here. If this administration and officials are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to attack our healthcare for trans people and entrenching regressive norms, then those same people and corporations are hoping you don't notice when they're raising everybody's healthcare, sabotaging our public good, and compromising
Okay,
everybody's
after
rights.
Lish, we got another person speaking.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hannah Edwards. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the mom of 2 amazing daughters, and my oldest daughter is trans. I'm also the executive director of Transforming Families Minnesota. We're Minnesota's largest support network for trans and gender expansive youth and their families. I stand here today representing over 1,000 group members in our private community. Many of them would be.
Many of them? Well, what is it? What is that voice? Like, what? I don't understand it. It's like, I'm not sure when I talk about being a mother and my, well, here's where it really comes and makes sense. And I am a mother of a trans kid. No, you're indoctrinating your children. Not good. Oh, it's so
Here
sad.
to share their stories themselves, but it's not really safe for our families to speak out publicly. So I'm here to share how this pause in care affects our trans children and our families. I want to start by saying that we love our doctors who provide gender affirming care. We build deep, trusting relationships with them, often over the span of many years. These doctors listen to our children. They help guide our families in making thoughtful, healthy decisions about medically necessary gender-affirming healthcare and our children's futures, all based in best practice and medical standards. Ththese decisions are life-saving.
Life-saving. That is how deep these people are. I mean, you can't really believe that, right? Like, this is life-saving. That is insane. By the way, one of the biggest puzzling things in the trans debate, I know I've said this on the show before, but there was a Navy SEAL, former Navy SEAL. The name is slipping my mind right now. Maybe one of you guys remembers it. And he became trans. And Joe Rogan had him on the podcast. And it was so puzzling because, like, you're talking about a guy's guy. And from everything I could tell, like a high performer, respected in the SEAL community, became trans. And it's like, how does that even happen? And then Sean Ryan had him on the show like a couple years later, and he was detransitioning and talked about how much of a mistake it was. And kind of, he had a rationale in his head. I don't know if I want to repeat it because maybe he doesn't really believe that, but it's something to do about the treatment of him as a boy growing up versus his sister. So long story short, like, that's a thing. There's detransitioners. Like, I don't think you're solving the problem by pretending that your child's trans. So stop with this bullshit life-saving stuff. And obviously not just in her own family, but she's trying to get other families to do it. Next speaker is
Braverman, and I'm the legal.
Oops.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jess Braverman, and I'm the legal director at Gender Justice here in St. Paul, Minnesota. I want to start by making it clear that gender-affirming medical care continues to be legal in the state of Minnesota. That includes prescriptions for puberty-suppressing medications and hormones for trans kids. To the public who may not understand gender-affirming medical care, the federal government has spent years demonizing trans kids and their parents, terrorizing their medical providers, and misleading you about what gender-affirming medical care is. The medications we are talking about today, puberty-suppressing medications and hormones, are regularly prescribed to kids who are not transgender. It is only transgender kids who are losing access to these safe and effective medications. And this loss is devastating to the impacted families. And the physicians who the federal government is attacking for providing this health care are the same physicians families trust every day all across the state to treat other pediatric hormonal conditions such as diabetes and thyroid conditions. The medications are not dangerous. The physicians are not dangerous. What is dangerous is the federal government insisting on creating crisis after crisis in the state of Minnesota while offering no aid and no solutions.
Okay, so you know what's so fascinating about this whole conversation is that these people are clearly on the left, right? And the left loves a big centralized government, a big federal government. And when the federal government isn't in the hands of their woke leftists or whatever the hell Joe Biden was, then they got a problem with this big centralized government. And that's our whole damn argument. Is you don't want this powerful instrument out in a foreign territory called Washington, D.C., a swamp, dictating what happens back in the States. Right? Now, in the state of Minnesota, I am going to make sure I don't want this to happen, right? Like, we need to protect our children. I mean, that should be number one in our society. If we were a sane society, that should be number one. But your argument is, oh my God, Orange Man, bad, and he's in charge of this federal government, and look what they're doing to us over here in our state. It's like, yeah, maybe you should stop advocating for this powerful behemoth in Washington, D.C., unless you're under the impression this will always be under your control, right? And then, of course, if it's under their control, there goes our argument on the conservative side of why exactly, great reminder on why we are so opposed to it, right? Anyhow, I wish they would just see through that logic, but, I mean, they also think that there's like 100 genders, so they're not going to see that logic.
And so I want to be clear about what's happening that led up to the.
All right, let's bring on the next speaker. We got Keith Ellison. Keith Ellison, who is running for re-election again this year as the top legal person in the state of Minnesota.
No introduction.
I couldn't even try.
Well, thank you, Jess, and thanks to Leash, and thanks to Hannah. And I want to apologize in the beginning. I have to leave right after my remarks. My apologies. But it's beyond enraging that even one hospital or one doctor has been put in this position. And we cannot forget why or where the pressure is coming from. The federal government has its eye on Minnesota ever since Trump's inauguration over a year ago now. This is part of their ongoing attack on our state, our values, and our institutions. They don't like that.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say the values of Minnesota is this. This is, you guys do not represent the values of Minnesota at all here, right? It's so sad that not every single person that votes makes this a priority on how they vote. Because if they do, Keith Ellison and Tim Walz are not getting reelected. And they know this, right? Most people are against this lunacy.
We take care of our kids here, that we feed them at school, that we provide them with daycare, and we offer them life-saving care that gender-affirming care is so often is. And so they ratchet up the pressure on our institutions, which forces them into decisions that they seemed like beyond belief just about a year ago, decisions made out of very, very human fears. And this is the Trump administration's playbook, everyone. I could very well be at the same podium talking about what they're doing to immigrant communities. And here we are talking about transgender communities and our fellow Minnesotans. But it's their playbook. Coercion, threats, bullying. They don't like how we vote, so they cut our funding.
You know, it's just so precious hearing Keith Ellison talk about this coercion and bullying when that's exactly what the F you did. Sorry, I almost said it. I know I got my swear jar over here. I'm trying to be good. You guys recognize that? I'm trying to be good. That it took a lot of might to not say the F word like fully out. But if I did, I'd put a buck in here. This guy guilty of coercion and bullying to all those brave business owners that opened up in defiance of Governor Walz's illegal shutdown orders during COVID. It was Keith Ellison suing. Is Keith Ellison going after Lisa Monet, right? And Keith Ellison going after Jane Moss and Larvita, right? And Keith Ellison helping with the prosecution against Lisa Hansen, who ends up in jail for 60 days, a grandmother, for 60 days for serving a cup of coffee against the dictates of Tim Walz. So don't you lecture us about bullying and coercion, Keith Ellison. I think you know that term very well.
We've been blocking them on that. They don't like the fact that we welcome immigrants, so they send 3,500 armed people to wave guns and even kill our fellow Minnesotans. They don't like how we approach children's health care, so they threaten our hospitals. Bullying and blustering is just standard operating procedures for Trump and his allies.
Okay, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. Let's go to the last speaker. You would think that Keith Ellison is the alpha male in the room, but nope. The alpha male is actually Finky. What's going on here? Come on, YouTube, work. Come on, YouTube.
And that's all I got to say.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. You don't got Thank you for being here. You go do the rest of the good you're doing. Hello, everyone. My name is Lee Finke. I use she, her pronouns. I represent District 66A in the Minnesota House of Representatives. I don't love following our Attorney General, but everything he said stands. So just a few weeks ago, I stood at this podium.
Keith didn't tell us his pronouns, did he? I don't think he did. That makes him rare. So I hope it's a he, him. We don't know. He didn't use his pronouns.
And talked about this administration's trans eradication policy in America. We have seen the revocation of our federal recognition across all law. We have seen discrimination protections dismantled in more than half of US states. We have seen trans people and trans children targeted, lied about, scapegoated, and more. This is happening for a very specific purpose. This administration wants trans people gone. I say this not to justify what is happening to our healthcare, but to set the appropriate landscape for us to understand a decision like that which was made by Children's Minnesota. Children's has been put in an impossible situation by a ruthless administration that is trying to destroy their entire hospital practice. We have seen similar decisions by children's hospitals around the country because hospitals, providers, medical groups, insurance companies, and every other lever of the medical establishment is being pressured to stop providing gender-affirming medical health care to trans kids.
What a great thing. And once again, trans kids, I don't buy that term. Let's go to the very end of this press conference here.
That person, and I've met with the CEO and the folks who are there. I mean, we're not separated from them. We're not doing this to pile on the decision that their leadership made. We have our feelings about it. Our families are terrified. But yes, we've been in communication with them. We have understood the position that they see themselves in, and those conversations will continue.
Last question. All right, then. Thanks, everyone.
By the way, not a lot of media here. I could just show you. This is like the media pool, and no hard questions.
So Children's Minnesota has the temporary pause. Is the timeline might be based on that litigation? Is that what?
Sure. I just want to make it clear that Children's Minnesota's action is about the declaration lawsuit.
And let's just go to the lawsuit. So this is from Keith Ellison's Attorney General page, just from January 16th. Attorney General Ellison sues Trump administration for conditioning funding on discrimination. Joins coalition of 12 attorneys general in suing HHS over attempt to unlawfully condition billions in federal funding on compliance with discriminatory definitions of sex and gender. Ask court to declare HHS policy unlawful and block its enforcement. Discrimination against transgender people is illegal under the 1993 Minnesota Human Rights Act. Now, I find it interesting that, they quote, well, it's the Minnesota Human Rights Act. And this is what made me think, I got to bring up an old story here. And you guys probably remember this. We wrote about it. Let me go to the original article. Minnesota Democrats sneak in pedophilia language in omnibus bill. Looks like I wrote this May of 2023. It appears that Minnesota Democrats want pedophilia to be legitimate sexual orientation. This week, Democrat leaders assigned only Democrats to the Public Safety Omnibus Conference Committee to decide the final language of the massive public safety omnibus bill. Usually, members of both parties get to participate in the final crafting of language. The final bill, which will soon come up for a vote in the Democrat-controlled House and Senate. By the way, it did pass. So this is the new law. Contains insane language that protects, quote, sexual attachment to children by an adult, end quote, while removing language that identified pedophilia as, quote, not a protected class, end quote. And by the way, the person behind the language is Lee Finke right here in this press conference. The final bill, which soon came up for a vote, Here's the backstory. HF 447, the House Civil Law Policy Bill, was debated and passed on April 26th. That bill had a section in it which got rid of current Minnesota law that stated, quote, sexual orientation does not include a physical or sexual attachment to children by an adult. In other words, the passage of the bill with that language intact would allow courts and others to interpret pedophilia as a legitimate sexual orientation. You see what happened here? So this is the language that's currently in law in Minnesota Statute 2022, Section 363A.03, Subdivision 44. That's not a mouthful. And so when they passed the Minnesota Human Rights Act, and this is what Keith Ellison's quoting here, it says sexual orientation, which, by the way, you cannot be discriminated, as you just heard, by sexual orientation. So it says means having or being perceived as having an emotional, physical, or sexual attachment to another person without regard to the sex of that person, or having or being perceived as having an orientation for such attachment. The original law had this in addition, and when you see it crossed out, that means this was taken away from what the Minnesota Human Rights Act originally said. It says, or having or being perceived as having a self-image or identity not traditionally associated with one's biological maleness or femaleness. Sexual orientation does not include a physical or sexual attachment to children by an adult. So House Republicans argued that Democrats were trying to validate pedophilia, so they offered an amendment that read, the physical or sexual attachment to children by an adult is not a protected class under this chapter. That amendment received unanimous support by both parties, and the final bill was passed with full Democrat support. So the Republicans caught this on the floor, pushed this amendment, and no Democrat wanted to vote against it. They wanted to make sure you understood, on camera, that you cannot have a sexual attachment to children and be a protected sexual class in Minnesota. And then the Democrat-controlled conference committee last night, HF 447, got put into even larger unconstitutional omnibus bill, and the language of the Republican amendment was removed. If passed, the bill would once again allow courts and others to interpret pedophilia as a valid sexual orientation. So, and I put it a little side-by-side comparison. And then if you go back to that story that I originally had here, this was actually talking about how it actually passed. So the bill ends up passing with that, and then this shows, going after Judy Seeberger in her district on that issue. So, that is the insanity of the left here in Minnesota. Now, a lot of you guys that are from Minnesota kind of understand that, right? They kind of see it. If you're watching and you're not from Minnesota, I mean, San Francisco and Portland and Seattle might seem tamer than it is over here in the liberal zombie apocalypse. It's so sad to see. K-Wolf Life says, tell me there is a lot of money behind these wedge issues. You know what? I'll tell you what. I was just having this conversation with someone yesterday. I go, the one thing that I don't have an answer to is what constituency reached out to Lee Finke and the Democrats and said, we really want this language removed. I've never got an answer to that. Like, who's advocating to remove that language? That doesn't even make sense to me. Like, is there some kind of, we kind of know there was an active pedophilia ring, connected to the highest in our political system. That's what the Epstein files shows. But, like, is it permeating to the point where we're trying to okay that behavior? It's still illegal to act on it. But if you have that sexual orientation in Minnesota, you can proudly claim it, and no one can discriminate against you on it. And Keith Ellison will sue you in court on that issue. God, it would be kind of interesting to test Keith Ellison's resolve on that one particular part of the Minnesota Human Rights Act. All right. Let me know what you guys think. If you're watching after the fact, leave a comment in the comment section. Let's get to one other thing here. I want to bring up the last Tuesday, so 2 days ago, was the caucus night in Minnesota. And the Republicans actually matched pretty much where they were in 2022. 18,289 total people attended the caucus. Lisa Demuth was the winner. Now, I predicted Kendall Qualls on this show would win. Lisa would come in second, and I think I had Lindell and Scott Jensen trailing them. So pretty close. Lisa pulled it off. I'll tell you what. Once again, I'm very critical of Lisa Demuth. I'm critical of all these guys. I don't have a dog in the race. there is, and I brought this up on the show. Lisa had these huge expenditures last minute. Did you guys get these? Right? This isn't even from her campaign. This is from Restore Minnesota. It says this is an independent expenditure prepared and paid for by Restore Sanity, PO Box 44. I haven't checked today. I wonder if they are now a filed committee publicly facing here, CFB, because we can break this news right here in front of you. But they have 14 days. That's an interesting part of the law. Oh, Restore Sanity. We're going to break some news to you guys. All right. So Restore Sanity, Tyler Carlson, Circle Pines, Minnesota. That's the chair, and the treasurer is Charles Gant of Beverly, Massachusetts. BulldogCompliance.com. Okay, so it looks like he's probably, so they got enough, well, obviously got some money, so they had enough money to hire some professional here. Now, we're not going to get reports and data because, quite frankly, they don't owe anything for a while. So it's basically kind of a dark committee, other than the fact now we at least know who is running the organization. Tyler Carlson, Circle Pines, Minnesota. There you go. That's the first time I saw that. Did a bunch of mailers last minute. These are 4. I got them. I think I got 2 of them the day of caucus. So, and by the way, I think this is really funny. Block up my address here. Lisa Demuth stands with Trump. Because I'm gonna bet something right now. I bet you if Lisa becomes the candidate in the general election, she'll run so far from Donald Trump. This is the phoniest in politics. You got some independent group that does these independent expenditures acting like she's some big Trump person, some big MAGA person. I guarantee she will run so hard and fast away from Donald Trump if she gets the endorsement or she gets gets past the primary. I guarantee it. You heard it right here on the show. She will run so hard away from Donald Trump, because she's got to appeal to the moderates, Once again, and I had the show. If you didn't watch the show on Tuesday, I would highly recommend going and check that out. Listen, it's just Minnesota is in bad shape. Everyone can see it's on full display. The ground game by the leftists. They can get 10,000 people on a short notice to show up and march the streets of downtown Minneapolis. There's nothing on the right, even close to that here. Nothing. So what we should be doing in Minnesota is building up the ground game right now. And from building from the bottom, building up the ground game, the framework of like a conservative movement, then we get better candidates 4 years down the road. But no, a lot of people want to go and just back some shitty candidate, for governor when these people have like no name ID. They're polling like 15 points behind Amy Klobuchar. Amy Klobuchar is going to outraise them by a ton, and Tim Walz has got $4 million in campaign funds he can just give to her or the Democrat Party. And on top of all that, the headwinds that the Republicans are facing. I should just do a show on all the bad data right now showing Republicans are in for a world of hurt come November, right? And by the way, I want conservatives to be successful, right? I don't want it to be that way. I'm just telling you what it looks like right now from my best estimate right now. And I'm not telling you to sit on the sidelines. I'm not telling you to quit politics. What I'm saying is right now, build the foundation for great success down the road. Don't get so zoned in on November's election. Don't put all your time, energy, money into November's election. Put it into building up the ground game right now. And by the way, doing that might yield Republicans winning the House and Senate. In Minnesota, that is. U.S. Congress, different story. Because if you start putting your time and effort in the communities and building from the ground up, that's where these legislative races happen. But if you start focusing on these big races, and shitty candidates that will probably totally fail you if they even get elected, which they probably won't, then you're screwed. Now, the only thing that you could convince me otherwise is if a Lisa Demuth or a Kendall Qualls during that race for governor inspires a whole group of individuals who will be a fighting force for our future and help build that ground game. If you could make that case to me, then I will change my viewpoint. This guy did it right there. That guy did it. He was not successful in the end. He lost to Mitt Romney 2012, but he built a movement, includes guys like me, right, that still to this day are in politics. But does anyone believe that's going to happen to Lisa Demuth or Kendall Qualls or Michelle Tafoya? Does anyone believe that when they get past this election, people are going to have their signs and flags of them in their yard for 4 years? No one believes that. It's one and done. And by the way, how much do you trust these people will still be on board fighting for you? A lot of them become lobbyists, right? Or in the case of Tony Jurgens, they'll just straight up become a Democrat. So think about that. Like, if you're going to make a move and get involved in politics, think about the long-term strategy. Build from the ground up. Rival what the Democrats, what the leftists have here. Stop shooting for the stars with some crappy candidates. That's my opinion. Razzle says, such negativity. I'm just trying to be real. The show is called Truth Hurts, right? I think I'd be lying to you if I said anything but that, right? Like, what am I going to pretend like these guys vote well? Like, what? They don't even vote well. Lisa Demuth's like a 35% on the Extra for Liberty scorecard. She's a failure. I don't remember what her score is. She's an F, right? Kristen Robbins, F. They don't even vote well, let alone will they do well, be successful. Mike Foley spoke at our caucus challenging Emmer. He has a website now, but hasn't looked at it yet. Yeah, we had that guy on the show. Jay Courier, the guy who spoke up for Qualls before the straw poll in our caucus location, did him no favors by enthusiastically stumping for David Hand immediately afterwards. Oh, that's crazy. K-Wall says, exactly. You plant the seeds and let them grow. Nothing thrives if you keep digging it up every year to check on it. Oh, great statement. Love it. Perfect. Exactly. Jay Reeves for state auditor. It's so gross out there. Look at that advertisement you just got. Jay Reeves for state auditor. It's so gross out there. The political machine is working overtime in Minnesota. Yeah, they're always working. You know, you could pretend like you're not interested in politics, but politics is still going to be interested in you, right? It's all about control and power. Razzle said, Demuth stopped by our caucus late. I was surprised. Nice wife spoke. Okay. Oh, yeah, one other comment there. And then I'll talk a little bit more about this in our post show. By the way, before I forget, if you want to become a premium insider, which really helps support the show, you can click on this link, or if you're watching after the fact, you can go to Rumble or truthhurtsnews.com. Premium insider right there. You can click on that. All right. Let me pull up that caucus again real quick. The caucus. So Lindell took 18%, Scott Jensen 6.5%. I don't know what future Scott Jensen has. I think I don't see it. They got to be having a long, hard conversation. There's no future. Like, you don't do well in the straw poll. You won the straw poll in 2022. You don't do well in the straw poll. Your polling data from KSTP looks bad. You're not raising enough money to keep up with these other guys. What are you doing, right? At this point, you don't really have much, from what I see, much path for success. Then comes next is undecided. That's me, right? That's me. See how many people are undecided? 5.72%. Kristen Robbins loses to undecided. Phil Parrish has raised no money. Phil's a nice guy, very conservative. Raised no money, doesn't even do well. But we predicted that too, by the way, that Phil Parrish would do better than the rest of them. I can't remember how many of these predictions we put on here. But yeah, we pretty much called that one. I got a couple threads that I've been putting these predictions on. None of us got Lisa Demuth right, by the way. That was a shocker. Although, in hindsight, was it really a shocker? I mean, texts, calls, emails, and independent expenditures on her behalf, which also means she doesn't have to spend campaign resources. Patrick Knight, 2%. Jeff Johnson, really no campaign. Peggy Bennett, what are we even doing, Peggy? I don't even understand that one. Brad Kohler, nice guy, $2,500 cash on hand, almost nothing here. I don't know what Brad's path to success is. Raul Estrada, not even raising money. I think they had 170, and John Curheen, really no path in my opinion, and then write-ins. So that's it. So I really think you saw from the straw poll. And what is the straw poll? It's the people that went to caucus with the Republican Party, 18,289 people. And then of the given choices, they weighed in on what they think. These people are all going to make from this field will yield about 2,000 delegates and alternates who will go to Duluth and decide who they want to endorse as a candidate, and 60% have to agree on one person. Okay. I would say you take this and you take the actual because all these people that go to caucus are going to vote in the primary, right? So it's kind of a microcosm of the primary voters. So if you don't do well here, you're probably also not going to do well in the primary. Someone could make the argument otherwise, but you're probably not. Now, can Mike Lindell overcome Kendall Qualls in the primary? Yeah, based on this, yes. But I don't think, Peggy Bennett is. I don't think Jeff Johnson is, So, I mean, the only case for Jeff Johnson is people remember voting in 2 primaries before for a Jeff Johnson, not the same guy, and they won't know the difference. So, yeah, this is actually real important for people to understand. And then the fundraising. So you take the fundraising, you take KSTP, Survey USA's poll, and this, it's just like, what's the path to success for some of these guys? It comes down to Lisa Damuth, Kendall Qualls, and Mike Lindell. And there's this glaring thing here for me. It's just like the undecided. Like, there is a chance somebody could emerge now and win, because I don't think how many of these people are solidly in this camp? How many people were solidly Lisa Damuth people? Or did they just know her name because they got a gazillion messages at the last minute? Did they even know? Kendall Qualls was like one of the worst people polled against Tim Walz when they did the previous poll. So they don't even know who these people are, most of them, right? Razzle says caucus was a bad day for Republicans, except maybe Little Falls. Yeah, a good story in Little Falls there. Maybe I'll share that in the post, whatever you call it, the post show. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. I'll be back on Tuesday. We'll be doing videos continuously every day. Should have a follow-up video. No, I'll tell you, Premium Insiders. If you want to know about our follow-up video, join us on the Premium Insiders show after this. So we'll see you on Tuesday. For everyone that's a Premium Insider, I'll see you in 30 seconds. Take care. Bye-bye.